Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a brand new episode of Babbling. At this point, you surely, hopefully, maybe know how this show works. I assume it's not the first one people have watched. It's episode 2, and it's just going to be me right here on the Patreon, just talking absolute nonsense. Thanks everybody so far who has supported the Patreon, all 2 of you. in all sincerity, it does mean a lot, and if you're watching this right now on Instagram or TikTok, whatever, share it around. If you have anything to spare, for even as little as £1 a month would go very, very far for me. It would mean a lot to be able to start making something, doing what I love. So if you feel obliged to help somebody try and start living their dream, that would be very much appreciated. But without further ado, let's just get into the nonsense that I did last month and just start talking a whole load of horse shit. I had a lot of fun doing this last month, actually. I was surprised by how easy I found it to ramble. I really was afraid I was going to run out of things to say after a while, but turns out I have so many interesting thoughts living inside me. I'm kidding, but not really. No, what did I want to jump in to talk about this week? I continued further production into my TV project, The Luded, which has been an absolute blast so far. And we filmed the first few pieces of episode 2 about 2 weeks ago now in a wonderful venue called the Bread and Roses in Clapham. Had an absolute blast filming this fake open mic scene there. It was crazy. Had a good buddy of mine, Andrew Dipple, who's English, playing an Irish farmer. Was a bit nervous casting him. I cast things, I know he's someone who works hard and would never do anything other than putting 100% into what he does. I just didn't know anybody else who could potentially play a farmer. Certainly no older Irish people, and he killed it. The accent was fantastic. It was such a blast. He dragged. I mean, it's a theater that has a bar, so he ended up drinking Guinness. He went like super method, and it was funny, and it was just a good shoot. You know, everybody there. We had extras. It was all friends of ours. We have a lighting guy now who is wonderful. Everyone there was just having fun and like wanting to make the best thing possible, wanting to make every scene in this open mic scene as funny as possible. It was just a good vibe with people. That's the one piece of advice I think I can easily give confidently to anybody watching this who is exploring a career in the arts in any way, be it you're a filmmaker, an actor, comedian, whatever. Is just be kind. Like it's that simple. If you're somebody who people like to work with, you'll start getting other stuff. You know, it's as simple as that. You can be the best actor in the world. If people consistently think you're an asshole, it's not going to pay off. You know, you can be super talented, but there's always going to be other people out there who are also talented, who are easy to work with. It is really as simple as that. I remember watching a interview. I can't remember who the guy was now, but he had worked with George Clooney on something, and the interviewer asked him like, "What's George Clooney like to work with? Obviously, he's a huge movie star. Is he a bit of a diva? You know, trying to get the hot scoop?" And he was like, "No, George Clooney is a pleasure. Look at the guy who's done, you know, close to 100 movies. People wouldn't keep hiring him if he was a dick. All the big people you see in Hollywood, like the Brad Pitts and the Matt Damons of the world, continue to get work because they're good people to work with." And that makes so much sense. Of course, you couldn't get that high up without people liking you and wanting to work with you. It really is as simple as that. But my point being was just to shoot. Everybody there was fun to work with, wanted to make the project good, was passionate. Nobody was being paid. This thing is independent and low budget. Everyone was just a pleasure, and it's just because I've had so many moments of working with people who are so difficult. It was just so magical. I felt so grateful to be in an environment where everyone was fun, everyone was a pleasure to work with, everybody wanted to be there and wasn't guilt tripping or, you know, just being shady or just being passive aggressive or whatever. You know what I mean? It was just a good environment, and when you experience enough bad ones, you appreciate when it's good. So just keep pushing for what's good and what you deserve as a creative. You know what I mean? Just an absolute blast. It's just so much fun. I've really been enjoying bringing the script to life. It's something. I mean, I wrote the first ever draft of this show back in the lockdown. It would have been, I think, April 2020, which is crazy to say out loud. April 2020, when I wrote the, when I first started conceiving of the idea, at least, maybe not started putting pen to paper, but conceiving of the idea and making notes about it. April or May 2020. And I mean, one of the best pieces of advice I've ever seen was Seth Rogen saying, "It's the ideas you can't stop thinking about are the ideas that you should make, because other ideas will come and go." But you know, this project, Deluded, was something that never left my brain. Here I am 5 years later, nearly 5 years later, after initially thinking of it. It's still something that excites me, and I want to do more with it, and I see all this potential for it. So yeah, I'm really just having a blast putting this together. I'm feeling really excited and hopeful what can come of it. At the very least, I know it's me. I've seen the first draft, the first episode now, um, the first cut, should I say, and it's colorful, it's fun, it's vibrant, it feels really me, and I'm just feeling really. I've been getting goosebumps just talking about it now. I'm feeling really, really excited and hopeful, and just yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how this thing comes together and what people think of it. But let's stop being indulgent. What else I want to talk about? I'm not sure that I mentioned this in the last podcast. I'm sure anybody watching this has heard something about the custard cream short film that I made with my buddy Ollie Miller, one of my best friends. I was gonna say in comedy, but actually just in general. Really funny comedian. We really, really click. A very good buddy of mine, but we wrote a sketch that kind of got more and more ambitious, ended up turning into more of a short film. Really, kind of has like a Bill and Ted quality to it, but it's called Requiem for a Custard Cream, and it's my character in it. When he eats a custard cream, he can see into the future. It's nonsense, stupid, silly, goofy, fun sci-fi. We filmed most of it actually in November. We had some green screeny bits that we needed to put together. So we finally got that done probably was about a week ago now. And this wonderful studio in Bedford called the Wellbeing Media Studio. Anyone living in the UK, it's an affordable studio, wonderful, wonderful space. Would recommend if you need some green screen bits done. The woman who runs it, Audrey, is wonderful, and just really open to your ideas and how she can help you to make it as good as possible. So I couldn't recommend that studio enough. But we have that thing done now. We have all the footage together, so that should be out fairly soon. I'm hoping maybe late April, early May. I think it's a really fun movie. The script is ridiculous, but we really worked hard making this as joke heavy as possible, and like it cares more about having fun than it does, telling a cohesive story. But nothing wrong with that. Sometimes those things are fun too. A bit Bill and Ted is the best comparison I can think of. Myself and Ollie's characters are very much that kind of energy, and hoping it's the first of many for us. We have other ideas and two other scripts to be written, so I'm hoping to do more. I like what our voices put together kind of makes it something silly and maybe a bit unfocused, but in a fun way, I hope. Almost has like an animated quality to it. Like it could be a cartoon, but that's the kind of the fun of it. It's live action, but it's so ridiculous. So it was a real blast filming that, and I'm hoping to do more because I love acting against Ollie as well. I think we have a very fun on-screen chemistry. We could be a modern day Abbott and Costello. Actually, that'd be a fun one. Something like Dylan and Ollie meet Frankenstein or something would be brilliant. There's a fun idea right there. Let's manifest that right now. That'd be so fun. Dylan and Ollie meet Godzilla or something stupid. That'd be great. But yeah, it's doing a lot of filming recently. So that's been really fun. I'll obviously always do my sketches as well. I have ideas recently. I want to do something more kind of professional of my sketches. I usually film everything on my own in my room or my kitchen or around my house anyway. So think about maybe even going back to older sketches and tweaking them and doing a version of them where I'll always be the stupid guy because it's the role I was born to play. But people around me, friends of mine and stuff, other brilliant actors and comedians can play the people alongside me. No, I'm something like a I Think You Should Leave Netflix thing. I Think You Should Leave is a fantastic sketch show. If you haven't heard of it on Netflix, I couldn't recommend enough. Tim Robinson is an insanely brilliant sketch writer, and performer. Really, really fun. I once heard Seth Meyers refer to his sketches as every character is at their wits' end. It's like their last stand, and it's a very accurate description, and it's a freaking fun show. If you haven't heard of it, by God, get on it. It's hilarious. You won't regret it. But yeah, well, it's last month's podcast, the first podcast, I ran like some bits and kind of spoke about them and where they're going and stuff. So it'll be fun to jump into some other new ones. I've actually written quite a bit of stand up material since then. One of those things sometimes I can slip out of writing stand up for a while because it's, I think, one of the hardest mediums to write for, because you have to make everything work just purely through yourself on a microphone. So, you know, it's not as seamless as writing a scene and then, oh, we'll figure it out on the shoot. It's like you have to do it in front of an audience, and it has to be tight enough that the reactions land, you know. So sometimes I can slip out of writing stand up and just stick with my own material for a very long time. I can get so bored of my own material kind of fast. I can do like 10 times. I'm like, oh, I'm getting sick of this. So it's good to continuously be pushing yourself if you're a stand up. Just write new jokes, try a new joke every night, you know. If you're doing a 5-10 minute set, just try one new piece of material. It's worthwhile. But even though sometimes it's very, very obvious what the new joke is, you try to hide it, and if it works out well, you're lucky. If it doesn't, it doesn't. You know, it's simple as that, really. But these are some bits I've been doing recently. I mean, I haven't done this one on stage yet, but it's definitely intrigued me. Is I was in KFC the last day, and I saw a sign that said "Savor every moment," and I thought to myself, "Wow, that is so beautiful and profound and thought-provoking." Like, yeah, we're only on this earth for a short time, and we should just live and love our lives for as long as we can, because we don't know how long that's going to be. And suddenly I realized, oh wait, they're talking about fried chicken. It's KFC, it's Kentucky Fried Chicken, not kindly find completion. That's the bit as it is currently written right now. There's something there. I know it's not brilliant yet, but I think there's something to be found in like this guy in KFC, this guy being me, the dimwit, this guy in KFC looking at a freaking a quote that's obviously meant to be about food and attributing it to this deep thought-provoking thing. Like, this is the first time ever seeing one of those mental health quotes. So I think there's something fun to be found in that for sure. But I know I haven't had the balls to do it on stage yet. Sometimes you look at these jokes and you're like, I think it's funny, but I know I wouldn't get a big laugh on stage. But there's something to be found in. I'm very much a writing comedian. Like, some people literally have to take it to the stage immediately. I'm quite comfortable drafting it, you know, maybe 2 or 3, sometimes 4 or 5 times before I take it to the stage, because I know it's not there yet. It's not stage ready, you know. And people are different. Some people don't even write stuff down; they just take it straight to the stage, and that's fine too. I know Mark Maron, who I think is a tremendous comedian and brilliant podcaster too, and great actor, great guitarist, just talented in many, many areas, which is always the people who inspire me the most. But he literally just goes up on stage and starts talking, and eventually forms an hour of comedy from that. So, you know, everyone's approach is different. But for me, I like to write it a few times before I have the confidence to tell on stage, you know. And I don't think it's quite there yet, but I think there's really something to be found in someone in the fast food place attributing quotes to being this kind of profound, beautiful message about our mortality, you know. So, you know, something to be found there. Still tinkering with it. This other bit I've done on stage a few times now, actually, and probably done it at least 10 times. I'm still finding a lot of fun with it. Is I talk about this suicide prevention charity back home in Kerry, where I'm from. I found out recently that their funding went up this year, so they decided to celebrate by hosting a skydiving event. And I feel like if you're a suicide prevention charity, skydiving is not really the way to go. That's a a demo for what it might feel like to kill yourself. Afterwards, you're asking them like, "Oh, how'd you find it?" Like, "Oh, it was great. Midway up in the air, I felt a sense of relief that I never felt before." It would also be very easy to loosen the parachute, make it look like it was the company's fault. suicide prevented, homicide succeeded. That bit's been going really well, actually. I've been liking kind of the great thing about that bit is the concept is funny straight away, and it's totally true. A charity back home really did host a charity for suicide prevention really did host a skydiving event. That's 100% true. Um, so I set that up, and that gets a laugh. So like that's how you know you're in a good place is the setup gets a laugh. Now obviously, what you want is the setup to get a laugh, and then the laughs will build from there. Because obviously, your setup gets a laugh and nothing else, that's the opposite of what you want. But thankfully, this bit seems to continue to go, and that last bit, suicide prevented, homicide succeeded, seems to be a good closer. I don't think it's 100% done yet. I think this is just more to be found here, but at the moment, it's becoming like one of my go-to bits because it's gets the audience kind of thinking. It has their attention because it's different, and I'm loving the process of it. So yeah, that one's been super fun. Yeah, it's cool getting kind of checking out my stand-up journey here because that one is so ever evolving and crazy. So that's been a blast. Really fun to reflect on this podcast. So that's really cool. Also, let me know if you want me to do an audio only version of this. It seemed like people were content with this just being video. I mean, obviously, you can just listen to it audio only if you want. I'm sure anybody watching this has it on in the background while they're doing something else. I get that. You don't be looking at my stupid face for too long. Although my face looks nice right now. I don't hate my face at the moment. My hair is kind of curly and groovy, and I'm liking it. I sound so narcissistic, but gotta celebrate the few days of the week where you don't mind looking at yourself. Um, yeah, I had one other bit then. Well, oh yeah, so I had this bit. Anybody who's seen me do stand up has probably seen it. Is I have a bit about World War II that is like one of my go-to bits. So far, some of my go-to bits are about suicide and World War II. Obviously, my comedy is very lighthearted. Um, Although I actually received a nice compliment about that recently, is that my stuff is dark, but because I have such a warm, fun energy on stage, that it doesn't seem dark, which is nice. I like knowing that because I'm not like a Ginny Carr type comedian who's like trying to make people uncomfortable or whatever. Not that I don't mind that either. I love Jimmy Carr, but that's not what I'm going for personally. It just happens to end up being material that I have fun talking about. Um, that I'm glad that it's still light and fun, even if I am going into darker areas. But yeah, I have a bit about World War II that is like one of my go-to bits. I talk about it being like, if World War III happened, it would be great to finally wrap the trilogy, and I talk about it like it's a movie basically, and it's me being a doofus. That's what this episode should be called. It's just I'm a doofus. That's what I'm gonna call it now. Babblin 2. Dylan is a doofus. But yeah, I talk about World War II and like how it's a great sequel. It's the Toy Story 2 of wars, which is always probably the big joke of that set. Then I move into talking about what World War III could be and Putin, and then the audience kind of gets hesitant, which I know why, because that bit isn't really as well written yet. I'll admit to that. But also, obviously, I'm talking about something current that's scary rather than something that happened so long ago that we're okay to make fun of it now. So there's two sides to the coin there. I don't even think that's really an expression, but it is now. I made one up. But I've been tinkering with there at the moment is I talk about, if there is a World War III, obviously the main villain would be Putin, and he's a very cliched villain. Like his name is Vladimir Putin. He even sounds evil. They got both names. You don't name your kid that, and he grows up to become a gardener. I never met a firefighter named Vladimir. I'm also from Ireland, so I've never met a Vladimir in my life, but my point still stands. That's kind of the bit that I'm comfortable with right now that people seem to enjoy, and there's other parts of it that I can't quite get to stick. So here's a few examples. Is I talk about I'm watching Putin in a movie. If you saw him in a movie, you'd be like, oh, this character is so cliched. Like, what's his motivation? He's just evil. Also, they really need to stop casting Americans in these parts. His Russian accent is terrible. That never really gets much. And I compare it to the Avengers. I'm like, oh, World War III is like Infinity War, but Thanos' plan is a lot more foolproof than Putin's. I have more empathy for a purple alien than I do for that man. You know, there's like bits and pieces that are working. Um, but it's just, yeah, it's not fully complete yet. I don't know where to go with it. So I tested like all these bits out in the audiences, and some bits land, some bits don't. But the closer for it always does work is I told this joke at a night in Camden once, and a woman in the audience said, Putin's hot. And if that's someone you find attractive, start to reevaluate who you are as a person. Because I've ignored a lot of red flags in the past in order to appreciate someone for their beauty. Genocide has never been one of them. So that's like a line that, it's silly. It's enough to get a chuckle, you know. But yeah, there's so much. It's obviously Putin. It's Vladimir Putin, who is a very terrifying figure. Don't get me wrong, but there's funny aspects to him as a person too. So there's a lot to be discovered there. So I don't know. Yeah, there's still a lot of weaving and what's what I'm looking for, chiseling to do with that bit. I think there's a lot to unfold there. I mean, I've gotten so many jokes out of it. I just don't think I've gotten the punch, the close of it just yet. So yeah, it's in development, but I'm excited about where it's going. Um, Another part of my Avengers comparisons, I say, I love Zelensky, but if he died, I wouldn't cry as much as I did for Iron Man. And that bit is like either one or the other. Like, big laugh, people love it, or people hate it. No in between. So, understandable. It's dark. And I say, I worry that the Israel-Palestine conflict has made this bit obsolete, but don't worry, I'm not going to go there. Those are the DC movies. Nobody talks about them. So, there are all these comparisons talking about World War II like it's a movie. So, there's lots to be explored there because it's such an interesting bit. It's just like, how do you make it as funny as possible without... I don't want to make people uncomfortable. I want it to be going into a dark area like I'm holding your hand, not going into a dark area that you don't want to discuss and just being dark for the sake of it or to make you uncomfortable. Like, it's not what I'm trying to do in my stand-up at all. So, it's an interesting journey. It's fun trying out new stuff. It's scary and petrifying, but it's good to keep challenging that muscle because I've definitely fallen victim to it, especially when I had my first like decent 5 minutes of comedy, my first decent 10, 15 minutes of comedy. I got very comfortable just doing that set again and again because it always worked, but I just got sick after a while. And it's like, you need to keep pushing and writing new stuff, and the audience can kind of smell it too when you're sick of a bit, that even if it's well written, decent gags, they can tell you're bored of it and you're not excited about it anymore, and that their interest is lost too as a result. You need to be passionate about what you're talking about also. Simple as that. I mean, I don't know how like actors on Broadway or the West End do the same play like 8 times a week. Sometimes some people for years. I don't personally. I might have some undiagnosed ADHD. I couldn't handle that. Honestly, I can handle it for the old paycheck or Rooney, but I would just get bored. I want to do something new. Now, I would love to do a show on the West End or Broadway, or even just doing a touring play or something. I would definitely want to do that someday. But yeah, it would be the challenge of like making it fresh and new every single time. That would be the challenge. I did read a great book about that called Different Every Night, a book that I read when I studied theatre, the course School of Music, wonderful degree, but fantastic book that kind of just like focuses on like how you make something that is, a set script that you could work on for a very long time, how to make it fresh and exciting and new and interesting for you, so that's also exciting and new and interesting for the audience and your scene partners every time. Great book that I recommend for actors. If you haven't read it yet, highly recommend. One of my favorite acting books I've ever read. Actually, it's not pretentious. It's just, here's how you keep telling the same story in a way that's fresh. But yeah, those are my main bits at the moment that I'm kind of having fun tinkering with. In terms of the stories that I have, glad that was a fun thing to do last month. Some interesting tales doing stand-ups. I've had a few in the past month actually. I did this venue called Square Go, fantastic night in Lancaster Gate, and they have another night in Finsbury Park, I believe. They alternate Saturdays, every Saturday at 7 p.m. Look them up on Instagram, Square Go Comedy, wonderful night. But I did their gig in Lancaster Gate um, last week, and I did well in the second half of my set, but the audience were very, very reluctant of me at the start. Is I was doing this more sort of storytelling stuff, telling stories about like death and kind of going into, again, darker areas. Um, but because that material is so conversational, which is different to, your typical stand-up that's clearly just giving you a setup punchline gag, and I think the audience kind of thought I was talking to them, even though that's not what I was going for. I would never encourage. Well, I have, I guess, but I'm certainly not a comedian who's like dying to do crowd work. I'm not. I'm not one of those people. I'm not like, hey, what do you do for a living? Unless I'm emceeing a gig, obviously. But they were very much taking my conversational tone as if I was talking directly to them. I didn't take a lot of things as a joke. Like I mentioned, my grandmother dying of Alzheimer's, which is just a setup to talk about death. And the moment I say that, woman in the audience goes, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And it's like, oh Jesus, this isn't. There was like 40 people in the audience. She goes, "I'm so sorry," as if like I'm talking directly to her, and it's a counseling session. And that kept popping up. People going, "Oh," and stuff. And I was like, "Oh, I hate this." And eventually, I was just like, "This isn't therapy. I'm here to tell jokes. I understand I'm going into dark areas here, and talking about people that I know, who I don't name, by the way. I'm fake names, obviously. Um, I ain't, I ain't looking for your sympathy. Okay, I'm looking for laughs. That was funny. I know it was interesting because they could see me getting annoyed with them, but they refused to stop caring for me. It was sweet. It was like the kindest heckling I've ever received. So that was funny. Oh Lord, I did this other gig that I won't name. I emceed it last week, and the audience was just dead, just like trying to get blood out of a stone. They actually started off okay, and as the night went on, they just got worse and worse. And I obviously usually believe in blaming the comedian, blame myself. I suck. I'm terrible. I should quit. But I could. Every comedian there knew it was the audience. They sucked. There was a lot of great comedians there that night who I have seen murder with the exact same material. This audience wasn't having it. They were just bone dry, looking at every comedian like this. I was just like, why are you here? You don't have to be here. I don't get those people. Like they stay for the whole gig. The gig was at least 2 hours, maybe going verging on 2.5 hours, and they stayed. I was like, you don't gotta be here. No one left, but no one was having a good time. It was a absolutely mentally confusing gig, to say the least. And I was trying my best, bringing out my hottest material. I mean, I wasn't trying out new stuff for this crowd, that's for sure. And it was just nothing was landing. I mean, it was a bomb fest. But an Irishman hadn't bombed that hard since the 1980s. That's a bit I do, if I'm not doing well, which people usually enjoy. But they sucked, and it became like comedians versus the audience type thing, which can be fun when it happens, but you don't like being in a situation where it has to happen either. But it ended up being what it was. I've learned to stop taking it too personally when I don't do well at a gig. Obviously you want to do well, that's the ultimate goal, and when you don't do well, watch that material and rewrite and see how you can tighten this material up and stuff. But I learned to just not take it personally and just, on to the next gig. And the one piece of advice I would give to any comedian who experiences bombing, like, really badly, is do another gig as soon as possible, if you can, the very next night. Even I've had occasions where I've managed to get to do the set on the same night, even better. Because it'll just get that gross bomb feeling off you. Just go someplace else where there's a good audience there that wants comedy and wants to hear your anecdotes. Because you can't bomb this, because the audience can be good. It isn't like your jokes, that can happen too. But a lot of times I find when I bomb, it's just overall a bad night, and the audience is just like not down for humor, which is crazy to think. If you're somebody who doesn't go to comedy nights often, it might be crazy for you to hear that sometimes you can go to gigs where the audience doesn't seem to want comedy or doesn't seem to like the formula of joke telling, but it happens. I've experienced it a few times. That'd be a huge piece of advice I'd give, is just do another gig as soon as you can. And shake off that bomb, you know? Shake off that bomb. That could also be the name of the episode. Oh, is it what's it called? Dylan is I'm a doofus. I'm a doofus is fun. Shake off that bomb is fun too. We'll see. We'll see. They're both good names. Um, but yeah, yeah. What was the last one? I did this like kind of open mic gig, so it wasn't just comedy. It was like slam poetry as well, and music and stuff, which I don't do much, but they can become a fun energy because when the comedian goes up, you can kind of feel special because you're not trying to make the audience feel in a dramatic way. You're trying to make them laugh, so it can lighten the mood when people are doing music and poetry and more kind of serious stuff. But I told a joke about dating apps, which is again like a big go-to one for me that usually lands, where I say like, I don't do well on dating apps. I find that women's standards have gotten too high. The requirements have gotten too specific. He has to be tall. He has to be a gym nut. I have to be attracted to him. I usually that's a good reaction. But this particular one, well, the audience liked it, but one woman went, "That's not very nice." And I just love when they take what you're saying so literally. It's obviously just a joke. And I said that. I was like, these are all jokes. um, and nothing bad happened in the end. It ended up being a perfectly fine gig. It was adequate. But I just thought her saying, "That's not very nice," was funny. People reacting to your jokes like you're stating facts is funny. I love hearing this audience's weird reactions sometimes. It can be delightful. One of my favorite examples is I was at a gig in Leicester Square and I can't remember what the comedian said, but a woman in the audience just went, "What?" And still to this day I hear that voice. It was so distinct, just the what? It's so great. I love that stuff. But yeah, that's been some fun little stand-up tales I've had recently. They've been fun. And yeah, let's just end it all, wrap it up in a nice little bow with some recommendations. As you know by now, I'm a big old TV nut. I love consuming content and media. I am a nerd. Um, and I don't feel bad about it. And if you want to work in TV, you want to write books, if you want to do stand up, I think the best thing you can do is to consume what you want to do. That's what Stephen King said. Advice to aspiring authors is like, read books, read good books, read bad books, because they're helpful too, because they can show you what you don't want to do. So yeah, just consuming media if you're somebody who wants to create content, I think is important. Because you can be inspired or you can be reminded of what not to do. Both are just as helpful. And that's a kind of a fun thing about watching stuff. Even though I watch them purely as a fan, I can kind of call it research, because it's also what I want to do. So it's nice. It's like a relaxing thing I do in the evening, but it still feels like I'm stimulating my brain in some way also. But in terms of some things I've watched recently that I've loved, Ted, the TV series of the Seth MacFarlane Show, fantastic. I think I like it more than both movies. It's brilliant. I saw some people say it is just as good as Family Guy in its prime, and I would agree. The jokes are fantastic. The guy playing a young version of Mark Wahlberg's character, John Bennett, is tremendous. I unfortunately don't know his name, but he is a brilliant, brilliant actor. And channels a younger version of Mark Wahlberg so good. Maybe plays the character better than Mark Wahlberg does, to be honest. I don't know, maybe it's a younger version of him. He's like not as fucked up yet as he is in the movies. I don't know. There's more heart to him, I think. Even though there's a lot of heart to Mark Wahlberg's character in the first movie as well. I don't know. I find myself rooting for the young version of him a bit more. He's wonderful in it. Seth MacFarlane as well, obviously, is killer as Ted. He directed every episode too. You can just tell he poured his heart and soul into making this show as funny as possible. Also, like, great stories in all 7 episodes. The cast is tremendous. The 2 women, I don't know their names, but the niece and the mom, they're both amazing. I know the mom is also in Euphoria. She's a tremendous character actor. She is so funny in the show. Has some of the most standout moments. There's this amazing scene where she thinks her husband is addicted to porn, and he's watching a Clint Eastwood movie, and she starts talking to him about the porn, but he thinks that she's talking about the Clint Eastwood movie, and it's like them both getting it's a complete misunderstanding. It's such a well written scene. I'm not doing it justice here, but just watch it. It's brilliant. And the dad as well is played by Scott Grimes, who I think is a tremendous, underrated actor. I mean, Seth MacFarlane has seen his talent, and that's why he's casted him as he plays Steve, the son in American Dad. He's in Seth MacFarlane's sci-fi show, The Orville, which is also fantastic. The best thing he's made, in my opinion. And he's also now the dad in Ted, and he plays the part tremendously. It's a great show. I don't want to give too much away of what happens in it, but it is you hear it on paper and you're like, oh, he's doing a prequel to those movies he made, nearly 10 years ago now. Actually, the first set was more than 10 years ago. I think it was 2012. So yeah, you're kind of like, it sounds like a cash grab. It's not. He put heart and soul into it. It's brilliant. It's funny. It's Seth MacFarlane as you'd want him to be. Just brilliant stuff. Couldn't recommend it enough. Really, really fun. I also saw June 2. I mean, it's not too worthy of talking about in terms of like it's doing really, really well and people have seen it, I'm sure, but it's great. I mean, it deserves all the credit it's getting. I've seen people make comparisons to Empire Strikes Back, and I totally agree. Timmy Chalamet, I don't care what people say. People hate on him just because he's doing so well and he's also a good-looking man. It doesn't matter. He's a freaking great actor and he deserves the success he has. He's talented. He's freaking so good in Dune 2. He's also, unbelievable in Wonka. One of my favorite movie of last year, but one of my favorite performances of last year also. He's so good in it. But yeah, Dune 2 is freaking sci-fi at its best. I just love a sci-fi that really takes you away and takes you into a whole other world that you're convinced is as surreal and intensely different and obviously fictional as it is. You get lost in this adventure. Denis Villeneuve is a friggin' master at it, and I can't wait to see what more he does with this world. I think there's like 5 or 6 books, I'm not sure, and I really, really hope he ends up making all of them because so far he's done nothing but strike gold with this franchise. So I'm super excited to see where it goes. Dune 2, amazing. What else do I have here? Anyone else but me. Okay, so this creator who has been one of my biggest inspirations the past 3-4 years now, and I discovered him in 2021. His name is Joel Haver, an amazing YouTuber whose whole kind of philosophy is to show and inspire people that they can create without having a huge budget. You don't need a film studio budget. You don't need to be a millionaire. You don't need to be wealthy to make art. And that's what he tries to inspire and bring into all of his work. And he's been a huge inspiration to me. And I would say a big part of what made me start putting myself out there as much as I had been in the past, 3 or 4 years. I put myself out there way more than I did back when I was doing theatre in Ireland. I was living... I was kind of in people's shadow a lot. I was very content being an actor in somebody else's play, but I didn't want to show myself fully. So I would say Joel Haver's been a big inspiration behind me getting the courage to write and create stuff and doing stuff like this even. But anyhow, he started a challenge this year where he's going to do a movie a month. He's going to make 12 movies in a year. And so far they've all been great. The one that he made in February, Anyone Else But Me, is tremendous. And considering how he made such a goddamn good movie, it is well made and there's a lot going on. There's sensational performances. And he made it in the shortest month of the year. I mean, he gave himself a big challenge and he hammered home. It's a good movie. It's really, really good. I'd highly recommend. It's if I was an actor doing this challenge where he wants to convince strangers that he meets on dating apps that he's a different person, and it just spirals out of control, and it's super fun. It's like a comedy drama in the best way. And the one that he did this month, The Text, is brilliant too. It's like a continuous take. I think he actually filmed it in one take. If he didn't, I don't know how he made it look like it was one take. It is seamless. It's so good. It's about this guy waking up the morning after a big house party and seeing that he sent an unsavory text message to his ex-girlfriend, and it's just so funny seeing how it spirals out of control. The cast and that is tremendous also, and yeah, as I said, I recommend. Just good fun. And yeah, just inspiring to see. I mean, he made some on a very, very small budget. He has a big following on Patreon, but he's still kind of following his own philosophy of showing people you can make something on a tiny, tiny budget. Um, you don't need Michael Bay money to create art. I mean, his movies are better than Michael Bay's movies, and they're made for probably 1% of the cost of a Transformers movie, so it's inspiring to see something that well made being made with such a teeny tiny budget, but it's also just genuinely good content, so it's the best of everything. Yeah, Joel Haver is tremendous. He also made fantastic sketches on his YouTube. He's only doing the movies now, but if you go back to his back catalog, he's got, I mean, literally hundreds of so funny sketches that I recommend. If you're just looking for a good chuckle, he's got so many great ones. And my last recommendation is Meet Cute, a film I found on Amazon, kind of randomly. It was made by Peacock, and it is Pete Davidson and Kaylee Cuoco, who you would know as Penny from The Big Bang Theory, and it's like a kind of time travel movie, like Groundhog Day, the formula, timeline always repeating itself thing, getting caught in a loop, and it does that really, really well. It's like a good, fun, feel good romantic comedy that's funny and has that nice, warm glow of a romantic comedy, but it also has the fun kind of sci-fi element of like your Groundhog Days and your Russian Dolls. Palm Springs, also an amazing film, but yeah, it's good fun. It's sweet. Pete Davidson and Kaylee Coker is a really good, likable, um, male and female lead. I mean, I love Pete Davidson. He's someone his work is continuously inspiring me. I think his stand up is freaking hilarious, and somebody else who's not afraid to go dark. His movie, The King of Staten Island, is great. His SNL recently that he hosted was tremendous. I love Pete Davidson, but yeah, the Meet Cute was just a fun, good, warm, fun movie. The kind of the way they put themselves in a situation where it's just this date that gets repeated again and again. And it almost felt like, you could have written yourself into a corner where that could stop being interesting, but it never stopped being interesting. I'd highly recommend it. It's also very short. It's only about an hour and a half long, which is rare nowadays. So it's a fun, good movie that I recommend. That's just feel good and silly and goofy and sci-fi and all that stuff that I love personally. Yeah, it's good fun. Check it out. And that's pretty much everything I have. I have to talk about this week, guys. I thought I wasn't that funny in this podcast. I know I'm such an overthinker sometimes. I want to be entertaining, and I know I hope this was fun to watch. I know I wasn't cracking as many jokes as I was in the last one, being a stupid boy, but yeah. I hope this was fun to watch. I don't know. I told some tales, and I still had who doing it, but I'm really being like, oh, I wasn't cracking as many jokes. Um, but hey, we're only who we are. Put that on a freaking on a board and hang it up in your bathroom. We're only who we are. Really inspiring stuff there, Dylan. I hope you had a fun time watching this. If you did watch all the way through, thank you. If you're watching this on the Patreon, um, well, the Patreon's the only place you can watch it, so definitely thank you for paying and donating whatever you have. I'm having a lot of fun so far, creating content for you guys and making this page worth the price of admission, whether you're paying £1 to get in or £25. So thank you for supporting. Hoping if you do enjoy it, share it around. I think £1 is nothing. You won't notice that coming out of your account. Obviously, if you're in a financial position where you do, don't force yourself. But I would hope most people wouldn't be. But share it around. Tell people this guy's funny. This guy's got something going on. I don't know. If you can, that would mean the world. Yeah, that's pretty much all I had to talk about, guys. Thanks for watching. This one's been pretty fun. It's a lot of nonsense, but a lot of me talking about kind of creative projects I have going on, and it's fun talking about these things while they're still in their kind of nitty and gritty stages where they're not done yet. They're all in good places. I'm happy with, but they're not completed. So it's fun to kind of talk about these projects while they're still at the sort of bare bone stage. Um, It'll be fun if I'm still doing this, a year down the line, to kind of talk to you about where they're at then, whether they be out and ready for the public or on their way to. Well, I would hope diluted. At least season one is done in a year's time. But other projects, like my stand up bits and stuff, like who knows when they'll be done, because there's such a never ending journey to them. But that's what makes them exciting too, that they are never ending. Like this fucking tangent I'm going on right now. No, thank you guys so much for watching, or listening, or whatever. For consuming it into your butthole. I don't know how people get podcasts these days. There's so many different ways. Maybe you read it. I don't know. Subscribe to me on Audible. I'm kidding. Unless Audible wants to sponsor me, then yeah, we'll do that. But guys, that is it for now. Catch you real soon. Goodbye.